Good evening. Welcome to the Marion City Council meeting, Thursday, December 7th. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Draper.
Here.
Ms. Etzel. Present. Mr. Spinks.
Present.
Mayor Abou-Osley.
Here.
Mr. Brandt.
Here.
Mr. Nicholson.
Here.
Ms. Pazor.
Here.
Thank you. This time we have a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, first on our agenda, we have a couple items with the police chief.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. It's an honor to be here tonight. I'm going to talk briefly about the police profession and law enforcement. I know the Marion Police Department has a reputation for being a very traffic-oriented police department. Comes with good cause, traffic safety. But I want to talk about the reality of what police officers see and deal with on a daily basis. We respond to domestic violence. We see assaults, abuse. We're often the ones that have to make death notifications when untimely things happen to good people. It causes a large amount of strain on our personnel and our resources. For that matter, about 4 months ago, we put together a working group at the Marion Police Department to come together and research the feasibility of bringing back a chaplaincy program to the Marion Police Department. Tonight, I'm very honored to introduce 2 police chaplains to the Marion Police family, and I'll ask them to come up at this time. The process was pretty extensive. We began about 4 months ago trying to identify clergy in the Marion area to help us with something. It's a completely volunteer position, and we wanted to find the best candidates that could serve the Marion Police Department, serve the community in many ways. And these 2 gentlemen absolutely stepped forward 100%. Reverend Greg Williamson on the left is the senior pastor at St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Marion. He's been there for 9 years. He completed his education at Concordia College and received his master's from Concordia Seminary. He and his wife Pam enjoy living and working in Marion. Pastor Matt Proctor is the teaching pastor at Cornerstone Church in Marion. He is an Iowa native. He and his wife Carrie and their family reside in Marion. Matt studied at Iowa State University and completed his master's degree at the Denver Seminary. Both are eager to begin working with our employees and our community. And I can tell you in advance, I appreciate the work that y'all are going to do with our department and with our community to give us that counsel when we need it the most, and to get to know us as people and not just police officers. And I know on behalf of the mayor and the council, we appreciate you volunteering to help us with this position, and we're eternally grateful for your service to the city of Marion. Thank you both. Chief. Thank you so much. Second item for business, I'd like to call Sergeant John Chipman and his wife Amber up, please. Departments need to invest in their frontline supervisors, because the frontline supervisor is the heart of our police departments and our law enforcement community. Without the supervision and the that they provide our officers every day. Cities can incur liability, and our officers that are growing in their role in the profession need mentoring. And for that fact, I identified John Chipman to send to the Southern Police Institute in 2017. Southern Police Institute is at the University of Louisville. It's a 3.5-month leadership course that takes individuals and allows them to grow in their profession, to become mentors, to learn leadership skills. It's one of the top 3 leadership institutions in the United States for law enforcement. You want to get hired as a chief somewhere or progress in any agency. It's the FBI Academy, Northwestern, or the Southern Police Institute. John volunteered, and he left his family, his wife Amber, for almost 3.5 months to go to this school. That's cost to the city of Marion, but more importantly to his family. And tonight I want to recognize John Chipman for his commitment to the Marion Police Department for over 20 years. He has served this community, and for him to step up to the plate 1 month into me being the Marion Police Chief and say, I want to be that guy. I want to help grow this department. I'll make the sacrifice to leave my family for 3 months to go to back what I'll learn and help this department grow. Congratulations from graduation. I'm very grateful and proud of your leadership there. He was the first member of the Marion Police Department to graduate from one of the national schools. I intend to send him back to the Southern Police Institute every year, and you set the benchmark. Without the support of our families, we'll fail. I don't know if anybody can grab a picture, but I've got a Chief's Commendation for Sergeant Chipman. More importantly, he has something on his resume that will last him the rest of his career.
Thank you.
Mayor, but I do
Yes,
have a
ma'am.
question for the chief.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you get something signed that he will not leave Marion?
See all these guys back here? That's there for a reason.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Steve Mosher to join me up front. So a few years ago, the city of Marion started our very own Civil Rights Commission, and Steve stepped up to lead the commission as the first chair of the commission, and he has served very well in that position. You know, it's, when you establish a new commission, one as important as that one, it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort to start the commission, to establish how it's going to work, the framework for things. You don't just step into an existing framework. So Steve put a lot of effort into it and has done a really wonderful job in leading that commission and setting a precedent of how things should be done going forward. And we really appreciate your time and your commitment. We're not going to let you go that easily, though. We're going to find you another way to serve in the city because
I'll be more than happy to.
you do a wonderful job. So we have a plaque here for Steve. It's Steve Mosher in appreciation for your dedicated and devoted service to the city of Marion and its citizens as inaugural chairperson of the Civil Rights Commission, 2014 to 2017. Okay, next we have a presentation from Kay Fisk, Neighborhood Transportation Service. Welcome. Welcome back, I should say.
Thank you. Well, good evening, Mayor and council members.
Would you please speak into the microphone?
Kind of a hard act to follow here with all these presentations and accolades, and I'm sure they're all well deserved. I'm back again to talk about my favorite subject, and that's transportation. And I want to talk a little bit about the merger with Horizons that we've had in the last couple of years and how that's working and how it's benefited Horizons or benefited NTS and made us even stronger. We found when we moved in with Horizons that the other programs were all ones that we could work with very nicely. The mental health program was having trouble getting their clients to the appointments because their clients didn't have rides, and the same way with the financial stability program. People did not have rides, they didn't have cars. And then it came to the Meals on Wheels program, and you might think, well, where would we possibly fit in there? Well, one of the things that we had that they did not have was routing software. So we were able to utilize the software that we used for our routing of our NTS schedules and use it for delivery of meals. It streamlined everything very, very efficiently, and we're able to save gas, and we've been able to eliminate some of the volunteers we use. So that was a real big plus. And then as time has gone on, we have found that the expansion of the number of meals that are to be delivered has grown, and we need more vehicles to deliver those meals. And so we've been able to partake in that, and that's been very rewarding as well. Which leads me to the fact that you folks in Marion are soon going to be recipients of the Meals on Wheels program again, as you were in the past. And we're delighted to be able to provide that again. That is so special. And as the mayor and I were talking earlier, this provides a bit of socialization for the shut-in individual. It provides a very nutritious meal. It's a safety check. The social part is probably just as important as the nutrition because it may be the only person they talk to that day. So it's been a win-win to move in with our Horizons partners, and we really feel a big benefit. Our NTS program has grown as it does every year. It's hard to believe that we started out in 1994 with 566 rides, because last year we had 57,000, over 57,000. So as you can see, the need is there, and we continue to grow. And unfortunately, the funding does not grow with us. That's a part that is a little bit troublesome. We work with a lot of the other nonprofits. Collaboration is very important because when you talk to funding areas, they all want to know who are you collaborating with, who are you working with, is there a duplication of services? So we do things with other organizations like YPN, Young Parents Network. We work with the Brain Injury Group. We work with ARC, RIM, which is here in Marion, of course. We work with the Salvation Army, Goodwill, Willis Dady, and this last 2 years we have been providing rides for the homeless individuals at night. After the regular shelter gets full, we pick them up and take them to the overflow shelter. And ever since the program began in October, we've had at least 25 to 30 people per night. That's per night. And that isn't even really, we haven't had that cold of weather some of the time. So there's a huge population out there that are homeless that are needing this kind of attention. So we're really proud to be able to provide that type of transportation. And this is in concert with the city of Cedar Rapids and Lynn County, who are helping provide the funding for us to be able to do that. Special projects, our summer meal program, I always am so proud to be able to talk about that because that again is in Marion. Your library is one of the centers where we deliver meals for children in the summertime when they wouldn't probably get a meal. They're on the free and reduced lunch program, and they probably wouldn't get a meal if they didn't have that delivered to them. And besides the 1,000 meals we pump out a day at the Meals on Wheels program, we also pumped out 35,000 meals last summer between June and August. And we don't have a very big kitchen, so it takes a lot of volunteers, a lot of scrambling to get all of those meals prepared and delivered in that period of time. I always like to point out that we are an economic tool in the community. NTS provides $7.7 million that it pours back into the community as a result of the people we take to work. We had a study done by Ball State University that gave us these figures. These are people who are going to be, as a result of working, they're going to be paying state tax, federal tax, your local taxes, school taxes. In other words, they're going to become taxpayers instead of tax users. They're going to become an asset to our community. So it's important to get people to work. We feel like we contribute a lot to the economy. One troubling thing that we find that's been happening is we have limited drivers for the 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. service. The 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. service is for people who are working in jobs like cleaning office buildings, janitorial work, security work, prepping in kitchens, doing different tasks like that, nurses, nursing homes. These are all people that go to work at this time of night, and many of them are pressed for a ride. So it's been really hard to have to turn people away. During the Christmas season, during this holiday season, CCB, north of town of Hiawatha, and the Nordstrom warehouse has so many extra people that they hire. So they really depend upon us to get those individuals out there. We've had to turn people away and not be able to get them to work. And this is really troublesome because we have a job for a person and we have a person who wants a job, and we can't marry them together because we just can't afford to hire more drivers. The funding situation over the last year has been kind of scary. We're a United Way partner agency, and not just us, but all of the partner agencies were reduced dramatically in their funding. We have lost almost $1 million from our funding stream of United Way. That's huge. I don't care what size organization it is, it's huge. So this means cutting all kinds of corners and making all kinds of adjustments to be able to continue to provide the service. When I say this for Horizons, this is the whole organization, not just NTS, because of course our budget isn't that big. It's slightly under $1 million. But for the whole organization, $1 million is a lot of money to try to make up. Grants are getting fewer and more competitive. There's more people applying. Government grants the same way. There's a lot of the government grants that have to do with transportation that have just simply dried up. We're waiting for some legislative work to take place. There's actually legislative work going on right now on the federal level that might possibly help us out. We're keeping our fingers crossed on that. I'll bring you up to date a little bit on the legislative work. I've still been lobbying in Des Moines on a regular basis throughout the legislative session for anything that has to do with transportation, because every study that's done, transportation bubbles to the top and is a big setback for so many different problems that we have. So I continue to advocate for that. And then now that I'm with Horizons, of course, I talk about food insecurity and financial stability and mental health as well, because they are all products that we are interested in seeing happen. I also go to D.C. and been there twice last year, or twice this year, I should say. And again, it's been discouraging because there's no leadership in the Department of Transportation at this time. There's not even any undersecretaries that are actually addressing some of the problems. So we have people who are just kind of milling around, talking to each other and trying to figure out what to do. So it's very awkward because you don't know who to go to, you don't know who to address, and thankfully we have a very good federal lobbyist that stays on top of this and keeps us informed and wonderful to work with. I continually look for sponsorships for NTS. Sponsorships are critical. Some of the companies that are our largest people that we pick clients up from are happy to help us out. Others have corporate guidelines that won't allow them to do so, which is sad and hard to understand, but it's a fact. I always want to make sure that when I talk to you folks about these, the money that we need for NTS, I always want to make sure that I talk about other stuff too. But I always think it's really important for you to know that the money that we get from the City of Marion goes directly to NTS rides. It does not do anything of any of these other activities that I spoke of. I just think it's important for you to know all the things NTS does, but I also want you to know that the money that we get from you folks is used directly for the NTS budget. I don't think you're going to be able to see this if I put it up here, so I'm not even going to bother, but you folks have a list of the businesses that we've been seeing in the last year. And I see it says 2016. I apologize for that. Does it say that on your? No. It does on mine, and I don't know why, but okay. Well, these are the businesses here in Marion that we've been serving over the last year, and you can see it's quite an extensive list. And you got to remember that these are people that don't have a ride to work. Some of them will ride for a short time, and then they'll find transportation with another person, and then hopefully after a while they'll find enough money to be able to buy a car of their own, and they won't need us anymore. So that's our goal. We're not trying to get clients, we're trying to get rid of them. We want them to become self-sufficient. We want them to be able to buy a car. And sometimes we get wonderful testimonials and letters, and they tell us that we don't need to ride anymore because we have a car of our own. And that's when you get that letter, that's when you know why you're doing what you do, because that's so important. Now the last, but certainly not least, is a paper here that kind of describes the facts of what we've been doing over the last year. And you can see that the 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. rides are right around 1,248 rides. That's just the 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. rides. And when you have all of the rides for the whole year, there's a total of 6,851 rides. So how often are you out in the evening and see that bus going around, driving around? Do you see it? Well, that's us. We're taking people to work, taking people to these businesses that you see on that other list. I've calculated the rides, the 6,851 rides times the number of the cost that it costs us to provide the ride. So every time somebody rides on the bus, this is what it costs us, $18.40. And you're thinking, how does that happen? Well, that happens, I'm saying this, you guys already know, but for the benefit of anybody else that wonders that, you have to figure in your employee benefits, your employee salaries, your insurance, which is very high for hauling riders, your all your overhead, your gasoline, maintenance, and all of that. And then you divide that by the number of rides that you've given in the last year, and that's what you come up for your operating cost. So last year it was $18.40 times your number of rides, and we have $126,000 that we have spent in the last year. I want to point out too that we did raise our fares in April of last year. We've had $5 for 10 years. It's been the going rate for a ride. And because of all the cutbacks, because of all the different things that's happened, we were forced to raise our rates a little bit, $1. So $6 a ride now, and if you take that times your number of rides, we've got a little over about $41,000. So if we take that $41,000 profit off of the total amount of cost that we've sustained in the last year, you come up with the $84,952. That's what we have to come up with. It's above and beyond what we take in. And so easy to explain why I'm here, right? I'm here to help make up some of that money. And not only do you folks help make that portion up, but the city of Cedar Rapids and Hiawatha are also very generous and in helping us close up some of those loose ends. It's a constant battle to try to subsidize what we're short every year, and this is no exception. So you can see them out there that you were provided us last year, and we would respectfully request that you could increase it by 5% to the 28,743. That's a modest increase for the amount of expenses that we have, we feel, and the other cities have been able to do that as well. So we hope that you will be able to consider that. Be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions? Comments?
I have
Yes,
a couple.
Kim.
Do any of the businesses contribute anything?
I'm sorry?
Do any of the businesses that the employees go to, do they contribute?
Well,
Oh,
yes,
but
they do.
do they go-
CCB gives us money, Nordstrom, Pearson, Kirkwood Community College. So you'd be quite surprised at some of the larger companies, their corporate guidelines won't allow them to do that. I'm not going to say their names, but it is kind of frustrating because we do take a lot of people to those particular businesses and they just don't kick in.
Mhm.
But we keep working on them. Maybe things will change. So
Another thing, now to sign up with NTS, do you have to go to Cedar Rapids? You make a phone call, say I want to, get a ride. Do you have to then go someplace in Cedar Rapids to sign up before you can?
yes. When you want to start riding
Yeah.
on the NTS route, you go to the main office on 5th Street and you sign a short little form, just a kind of, it's just demographics basically that I use for writing grants, getting age groups and ethnic groups, how long has it been since you've been out of work type things, just kind of some basic guidelines. And then we go over the rules that are needed to ride the bus. And then at that time, people can either buy one ticket or a week's tickets or a month's pass. And then we get them on the route. They have to call in 24 hours in advance so that we have routing software that sets up our routes so we can get them onto the route. And we pick them up right directly at their home, take them directly to their place of work. Usually they only ride one way. They'll either ride to work or home because the city buses would be running at that other part of the evening. So
Okay.
they would be
I
able to
thought it would
catch
be
it
kind of
then.
hard if you need a ride and then you have to make your way to Cedar Rapids to sign up. It might be hard for some people to get there
It
and
is,
sign up.
and we find exceptions like that, and we make exceptions when we find that happens. If they can't find a family member or a friend or somebody, well, we're not going to just let them set. Somebody's going to go pick them up and bring them in and get them set up. And I've had a little program called Jumpstart that has been funded by Mercy Hospital, and you'd be surprised how many people come in and they want to ride, but they don't have $5 to buy the first ticket. I mean, you think, wow, but they don't. They simply don't have $5 for a ticket. So this Jumpstart buys them several tickets to get started, and then we ask them, and sometimes they do, when they get on their feet, will they pay it back and jumpstart somebody else? So it's kind of been fun to watch that. But that's not uncommon that they don't even have the funding for one ticket.
Okay. Any other questions? I would just add that Horizons is working on restarting the congregate meals, the daily meals at Lau Park for seniors. So that's really exciting that they're
I'm
working
really
on
glad we're able to do that.
Yeah.
That's
So
a win for all of us, isn't it?
working with them on getting that restarted. So
Okay. All right. Well, thank you again very much, and have a Happy holiday, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another presentation, Nature Conservancy. Sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Steve Cooper, the Stormwater Coordinator in the Engineering Department. For about a year, a little over a year, I've been trying to help an organization called the Nature Conservancy. This is Nick Longbucko of that organization. He's presented this project before to the council. It's a really nice environmental restoration project that the city actually supports. He's going to give the presentation of what the project is and make a formal request for the permit fees that are required. I mean, this is a good public-private and not-for-profit partnership because it's going to be something that's good for the environment, and the city wants to help this project move along. So, but we still have to require some of the permits for like building or doing any kind of grading in the floodplain. So if we have to do it with private companies that want, or private developers, private builders, we also have to do it for not-for-profit. So we have these permits, and we're requiring to make sure that they comply with the construction practices, and we just need to have a formal approval of waiving those permit fees, because the one fee is $500 to work in the floodplain, and then there's a minor erosion control permit that is $25. So we are in support of this project. If they can get this thing going, we just need to make sure that we've got approval to help them not pay what they don't need to pay, so that we can cooperate with it. So here's Nick Longbucko to talk more about what's going on. We've got to keep it on here. Okay. I brought this map. Maybe what we can do is just have them, you can just kind of point out what's going on in here. Also, Rick Sandstrom because this is on private property of the Creekview Coves Association. So their representative is here to provide his support for this project as well.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. Again, my name is Nick Longbucko. I work for the Nature Conservancy. The Nature Conservancy is a science-based conservation organization. We're one of the biggest in the world. We're in each state and 30 other countries. I work in the Cedar River Basin to do improve water quality, reduce flooding, provide habitat by providing wetland restoration and enhancement services to our public and private partners. And we started our work in Lynn County. This is a new project area for us. And some of the projects I've identified are called oxbow wetlands, so these are oxbow wetlands restorations. So we identified a spot in Marion. Actually, one's in Thomas Park, which we're not talking about today, but the other one's on the Creekview, the neighborhood association's common property. And Rick's been kind enough to work with us and try to scope out a project that we're really excited about. And an oxbow is basically, let's see, how's this working? All right. I got it. It's an old bend in the stream meander. So you got the river at one point. This is Indian Creek. The Lowe's is down this way, and then Thomas Park is that way. So the Indian Creek at one time flowed down this way and then back up towards Thomas Park and then back out to the south. And then once that stream corrects again, they have this old oxbow scar that's at one time was filled with water and provide fish habitat, wildlife habitat, but over the last 50 years it was filled in. So what we're proposing to do is dig the sediment back out and restore it, restore the off-channel habitat. So we're not reconnecting it to the stream, we're just digging out the wetland here, regrading the banks, seed it. When the river floods, this will act as floodwater storage, and then fish will move back and forth. Some particular species of fish need the backwater habitat for their life cycle and get some shelter from other predators. So it has habitat benefits, floodwater storage benefits, and then wetlands act as natural filters and can kind of filter out nutrients, pollution from the runoff. There's actually a storm drain that comes out through this area and drains it. It will be draining into our wetlands. So we'll be able to treat that water before it hits Indian Creek, improving water quality for the river there. We got all of our other permits set up. We got a spoil area set up. The Rick, and I'll have him say a few words real quick. He's been really great working with us. He's done a lot of habitat restoration already down here. He's done prairie plantings. He's worked on the stream bank. There's ducks, turkeys, mallards, wood ducks, deer. It's really a cool common area and a resource for the home association. As part of this, and kind of to not only just have a project here, we'd like to use it as a demonstration site for other landowners in Lynn County to show what private landowners can do for habitat improvement. So we would work with the Indian Creek Watershed Management Authority, maybe county parks, the city of Marion parks, try to have some field days out there and just show what a restoration project can look like. All this is funded totally by the Nature Conservancy. We've raised private funds to do this restoration work, and at times we leverage it with state, federal grants as well. So we're funding the work and just working with the landowner on identifying a project that works. So, because it's such a great public-private nonprofit relationship, it provides benefits for the common good, and trying to use it to educate other landowners. We're asking the city to please review our floodplain permit, erosion control permit, and waive the fees for application. Besides from educating other landowners, this is also going to be a learning experience from us. We've done a couple of these in, with the city of Cedar Rapids, Morgan Creek Park, the county. In each project, we learned something else. So, as we work on this project, we'd like to learn something to do it again in Thomas Park. So working with the Parks Department there, we would like to do a project. And, kind of work with the city, develop our relationship, and have these become more effective both on the ground and just working with you in the future. Steve's been great to help me make sure I'm dotting my I's and crossing my T's on my erosion control plans and following what the city needs to enable. The Army Corps lets you do the floodplain stuff because you're responsible and want to take local control. So we're more than happy to work with you on that. So I don't know if there's any questions, or Rick, do you want to say anything?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome.
My name is Rick Sandstrom. I'm the president of the Creekview Homeowners Association. We're located right behind Menards, across from Thomas Park, and then the other park is right on the other side. So we're kind of right tucked in the middle. We have several successful models that we've already worked with the city and with the power company on this area, and we're hoping to create this model for lots of other homeowners associations around the city. We have 34 houses there. Half of our space is developed, but the other half is green space. Several of the lots that are along this developed area, including my own, are only 50% in grass, and the rest of it is prairie grass and wildflowers. So we've done a combination of trying to learn how to make these things work. The green space becomes really important for all of us. All of this space floods. I have video. I don't really know how to hook it up, but this space goes under 4 or 5 feet of water when the floods come. So it'll come up and flood the whole space, and then it goes down in 3 or 4 days. And we're across the creek from Thomas Park, which does the same thing. So you get a sense for where it is. So far we've been very successful with several projects in the city. First of all, I think probably one that we're all real proud of is that we're partnered with the parks for the trail. The ground in the south part is ours, and there's an easement that we put in. We developed the trail stuff by ourselves with the park people. We partnered with Trees Forever to do some work in the forest. We've been able to partner with the Alliant Power Company, and all the ground under our power lines are replanted with prairie grass and wildflowers. So we've changed the terrain and we changed the flow of the water. And we think this is just a natural extension. Probably our biggest accomplishment to date has been with the streets folks on cleaning up the ditch and the stream banks. And that's made a huge difference in how the water flows and how it behaves when it floods. So I think all these are successful demonstrations of how we all should be behaving. Because I think it's not just the city's problem to manage the water. It's not just somebody else's. we need to step up and partner with these people that have expertise and make sure we stay in line with the city's plans. So I appreciate you taking time for us. I think this is something that we want to point to as an example that other people can do, because we've got to do this through the whole watershed. And the secret to this water management is to stop the water when it rains, not try to stop it once it gets in the creek. And so these steps, all these steps that we can take will be helpful. We're going to have to do this up and down the watershed to help the city of Marion. And so, our hope is that we'll learn. We'll be able to be more successful and efficient when we do the Thomas Park one and when we do other ones up by the golf course and other places. So if there are any questions, I'd be pleased. We're thrilled to partner to do this kind of thing. And we try to do something each year to try to learn from it. And I think that's a good example.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for your leadership on it. Any questions or comments for any of the gentlemen? None? Thank you very much.
All right.
Great project.
Yep. Thank you for your time.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
we would propose, if council's willing, we'd put a resolution for waiver of those fees at the next meeting.
Is that okay with everyone? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we have citizen comments. Is there anyone here to address the council? Sir, come forward and please state your name and address. And have you filled out the card?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
I'm Larry Smith, 1890 7th Avenue in Marion. Recently on Saturday night, about 6:30, there was a wreck on 7th Avenue, and it showed up on the news where our property was damaged, and also the adjacent property next door had extensive damage to it. What happened was that a driver swerved to miss another car that was turning at 19th Street and excuse me, and went off the street and through the properties and did quite a bit of damage. So what I guess I'm asking the council is there a consideration to dropping the speed limit there to at least maybe 25 miles an hour? Right now it's 35. And the reason for that is right now at 35, there's very few going 35 on there. Tonight, just to try it out, I tried to keep up with a couple cars. I was going 35, and everybody passed me. So I wanted, and most speed limits in the city are under that. The business district downtown is 20. Most residentials are 25, and yet that strip there between the new roundabout at 26th and about where Phillips Diamonds is all 35 miles per hour. And once they get racing, they got 15 to 20 blocks there to get the speed up, and that's turned in the summertime to be a motorcycle raceway. And I also don't see, and this is my own perception, I don't see a lot of patrolling done in that section of the area. I could be wrong, I'm not sure. I do know there is an officer that sits on Menier Road about 2 days a week for about 3 or 4 hours, but I do not see that happening on that section of 7th Avenue. So that's one request. The other request is I brought to the council in February of last year about at that same section of the street that there was a crosswalk lights that were torn down by trucks, and the city was reimbursed for that, but they were never put back up. That crosswalk is still a hazard. Kids run across there every day trying to get back and forth to school. And I just wonder how long that's got to go on before somebody gets killed. Okay. So is there any works in any of those things going on? Do you know of or not?
Yeah, or Brian? Brian.
I did follow up with the Marion School District. The superintendent is speaking with the principals now to see if they do want that back. That's actually a school crossing there.
Right.
That's how it got. As of right now, they have not expressed the need to have it. However, he is going to visit more in depth with his staff and then get back to us and probably refer it back to TAC.
So it's purely their call?
No, it's not their call. The reason why that crosswalk has been there is for a school crossing.
Yeah.
And basically, we reached out to them to see, do you feel like this is a necessity for the school district?
But if they
It
say,
wasn't really initiated by the city. However, we could have asked TAC to review it if the council wanted.
okay, so even if the school doesn't ask for it,
Right.
the city could determine that it's something that's needed or
Right,
beneficial.
and I'd probably recommend, Dan probably knows this, but have a review of the warrants and everything for the crossing.
Okay. So it is in process.
Okay, and I do know one thing that was said last time that I was here, is they was reviewing that because, there's hoping the traffic would revert over to Sixth eventually, so it'd be less traffic there, but, we have semis that go by there, and they're travel enough that it shakes the building, so they're not going 35 miles an hour through there either, so something's gotta be done in that section. So, if nothing else, at least address the issue on maybe more patrols being done there, because I've yet to see a citation written there for a traffic speed limit citation. But I've been there 3 years.
Okay, so we'll let
Okay.
the chief handle that, and
Thank you.
There was a lady here a few months ago that
Right.
addressed the same thing.
speak into the mic.
There was a person that was here at the meeting that addressed the same issue, about two or three meetings ago?
Okay.
No, it was an individual, a fellow, and he addressed it for the same concern for a school crosswalk. And that's why it had been, that's why Ryan has been looking at
Okay.
that intersection.
Well, that's good. I'm glad somebody else besides me is interested in it. But also the speed limit should be something done with that too, since we're gonna switch that into more of a business, even a business more section than what it is now, that something needs to be done with the speed limit. If it's 20 downtown, maybe it should be close to that there too, so,
Thank you.
thank you.
Your Honor, may I address both those situations?
Sure.
I think if you put a traffic light, you will funnel the kids that are crossing that street to that traffic light, mainly because it's safer and they don't have to dodge cars and all this. So I would be very happy to see that traffic light go back in. Also, that whole stretch of 7th Avenue has become commercial. And I mean, if you take it from, 7th Street, even farther down than 7th Street, all the way out to almost 31st, 35th, that's uptown. I mean, and I think a
Central
lower
business
speed
district.
limit would definitely be called for.
Yeah, there are a lot less children crossing at that spot than what there was, simply because they're crossing wherever they can now.
Which is
Could be
dangerous.
unsafe. Okay. Any further citizen comments or presentations? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent calendar.
Yes, Your Honor. Pardon me, I have the consent calendar, and it's items 1 through 18, Resolution 26-529 through 26-541. I move approval.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar, items numbers 1 through 18, including resolutions 26529 through 26541. Discussion?
I just have one quick question,
Sure.
Dan. On 11D, it's talking about the pedestrian beacon project. When are those beacons going to get installed?
They were installed the other day.
Oh, fantastic.
I haven't
I didn't
noticed.
see because I was here.
I haven't noticed yesterday that they were in, so they've all been installed. I'm not sure if they're operational yet, but they have been installed.
Okay.
We're working on that. It should be this week or early next.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, other discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. Pass the gavel to Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay.
Councilman Edsel.
Yes, Your Honor, I make a motion to approve the consent calendar with Mayor Oblosely abstention from voting and discussion regarding the following items as presented. Items number 19 through 24, resolutions 26542 through 26547.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Discussion on these items. Nothing heard. All those in favor of the consent calendar signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion's carry.
Okay, under planning, that item's being removed from the agenda tonight. We move on to administration.
Your Honor, make a motion to approve the ordinance number 17-33, amending the chapter 17.04 of the Marion Code of Ordinances regarding council compensation. Initial consideration.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 17-33, amending chapter 17.04 of the Marion Code of Ordinances regarding council compensation. This is the initial consideration. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes.
Your Honor, I move to suspend the rules of the second and third readings and place this for final consideration.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to suspend the rules and place this item for final consideration on the floor. Is there any hurry to do that?
Well,
or any reason?
I think it's best to get it in, and I want to make sure that these raises for various people, myself not included.
Any discussion?
Do we want to wait and see if anyone has issues with it? I mean, has anyone heard any issues with it? I personally haven't.
I think it's gone on long enough that it, the
Talked
question
about it,
about the index as opposed to a certain percentage and all this,
Okay.
I think that was all discussed pretty well before, and this would just get it on the books and
The correct way.
and in case that there weren't enough people to vote next meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, this is amending it. It's not
Right.
the actual.
Right.
Right, we already got the raise. This is just.
Okay.
Okay.
Other discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. Mr. Nicholson?
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 26549, approving matching funds for Marion Leadership in Action Holiday Lighting Project in the amount of $4,108.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 26549, approving matching funds for the Marion Leadership in Action Holiday Lighting Project in the amount of $4,108. Where would this come from?
So it's already included, it's a budgeted item in the CIP in the amount of $10,000, and it's from the 2009 local option sales tax.
Okay, and it's a budgeted item up to $10,000, so.
Correct.
Okay.
But I did want to address one thing on this. I talked with Brooke from Uptown Marion just before this meeting, and she had indicated that there would be an additional cost associated with the tree that was presented to you all on Tuesday for footings, the installation there. And so if you are willing to help with that cost, I'd ask maybe that you could amend this resolution to say $4,108 plus cost of footing.
Do we know what the approximate cost of the footings is?
Not yet. Ryan's working on that.
No, we got a structural engineer looking into it right now.
Do we have a maximum it would be, or?
It wouldn't be over, I don't think it'd be over $1,000.
So it's still within the budgeted amount?
I think so.
Ryan, have they addressed the power issue up there as well? Is
The
there gonna be
power,
something-
we can get power, if that's the location, I think staff needs to talk about the location first. The other issue would be power. If it's going in that location for the bus shelter, we could do that. It's just gonna need to be upgraded someday as well.
I know there was a discussion about permanent power, not any type of temporary power going in there, so.
Anything we do up there would not be permanent. So it's pretty old infrastructure.
Would council be willing to amend to up to $10,000, and that way staff could address those issues?
For power and footings?
Yes.
And so the location is it the center of that 11th Street, I don't know, what do you want to call it, plaza?
I don't think that's been determined yet.
Yeah, and so that would actually be, regardless of, the funding for the footing, that would be through a hold harmless, so they would have to fill that out and get that approved by staff separately from this action.
Location.
Mm-hmm.
The council would like, once we get more information, we could come back with an amendment to this as well. So we just don't have that information right now. It's this week we found out we were going to put it up there. So we need more information to give you a cost.
We're going to vote on it. We need more information.
So you still want us to approve the footings or not? Or
You could amend it to say, to also include footings up to $10,000 total. So it could be the lighting project in the amount not to exceed $10,000.
When are you going to know how much it's going to cost for lighting and the footings?
Well, the lighting, we can get there's electrical up there we can utilize with the type of amperage that she's proposing to utilize. There isn't much draw there, so we're not worried about that part.
So that's like minimal cost to get it?
No, I mean, we can get it done. We already have a plan for the power.
Right.
It just depends on how many improvements you want to make and how permanent this is going to be. I know there's going to be improvements there down the road. Our intent, at least from my perspective and up to now, we're hoping to come up with more of a portable solution for that tree rather than having a permanent footing, which we think we can do. We just haven't heard back from the structural engineer yet to see if we can do that.
So instead of a cost for footings, there might be a cost for making it a stand for it, basically.
Basically, a reinforced stand. So there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of answers I don't have yet.
I think there's also a kind of a timing issue based on trying to get it up before Christmas,
sure.
I assume.
I think we can get it up before Christmas. I just don't have that information back from the structural. It's going to involve concrete, which we can do in-house. I have no problem with that. But it's just I don't know what that's going to look like yet.
I guess I only say that because we'd like to at least get some kind of action tonight based on at least the footing, I guess, or whatever type of structure.
Yeah, if you want to amend it to say, would it be fair we could go 1,000 on the footings and then we'll take a harder look at the electrical and we can come back to council if we need to.
I would feel much more comfortable doing that, dealing with the footings than to go, the full-fledged electrical, potential. Who knows what that's going to be, so.
But is the $4,000 to pay for the sculpture itself, or the tree itself?
No, the 4,108 is for the match that the class raised last year for the Christmas lighting. So this is just all associated with the holiday lighting project. The line item in the CIP just refers to that MLIA holiday match, and so it's broad.
So if you're worried about having the money
I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, if you're worried to have the $1,000 to do the footings or whatnot, if we're already giving them $4,000 right now, and they need $1,000 to say put the footings in, well, they got $4,000 from us, and they can come back and ask us for that extra $1,000 after the fact. They'll have the money to do it because we're giving them $4,000.
Is the money? I mean, it's just this $4,000 is for the match, right?
Correct. Yes.
It would go towards that fund that would fund future lighting.
Sure. And I don't know if that's already earmarked for something. Brooke might be a better person to answer that question for that 4,000 figure.
So in the last year, typically we ask for this match in the spring, right after we did all the fundraising. Last year, the class came to you with very specific items that they wanted to purchase through a catalog, and the council wasn't real keen on those specific items. So this year we're doing a master plan, and we're kind of trying to raise a general fund with a community vision for a master plan that's going to be implemented over the next 7 years, so that each class has a clearer vision of how this all plays into a bigger piece. So that general fund would go towards all of the lighting implementation, but it wouldn't necessarily go towards this project in particular. This project is from funds raised last
So
year.
this $4,100 is going into that fund. It's not funding a specific purchase right now.
Correct.
So I think what Will is saying is that,
Deliver the money
if
to
you need,
fund it.
if extra funds are needed for the footings or whatever, that money will be there to be able to be used for that. And then if we need to come back after you know exactly what it is,
Need more money.
you can come back and we can approve. It's not urgent to approve that additional money now, since you'll have the money to be able to do that, and we can approve that once we know what it is. Does that make sense?
Understood.
Does that make sense? Yeah?
Yep.
Ryan? Good? Okay. Okay.
Especially because we don't even know exactly where it's going to be. It may not end up being there, so.
Okay. Any other comments or thoughts on this, or questions?
I'm very excited to see that tree up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be really neat.
Yeah, because it not only is it a holiday
it's
fixture,
art, yeah.
it's art.
Yeah,
it's a sculpture.
going to be real
And
neat.
so it could even be up the entire winter.
Yeah.
I mean, it could,
So.
right? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Okay. We'll vote. All those in favor of resolution number 26549, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. Council discussion. Ms.
Your
Pazur.
Honor, many moons ago, when the start of small areas of paving were replaced with asphalt, the city bought a machine. Brian? Gotcha, didn't I? No, the city got an asphalt machine because the Pates or Pelling weren't interested in the small jobs that could be done by the city. Do we still have that?
Yes, actually, the first laydown machine we got was back in, I think, in the late 90s. Then we upgraded to a much larger one. We use it almost every day during the summer.
We do, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was asked about the city's involvement with that.
Yeah, we're limited to what we do because we don't like to get on the major arterials, but it comes in great. We did that joint project with Lynn County on Fernau Road.
Okay.
And a lot of little streets that kind of get forgotten about. That's where it comes in handy. So.
And thank you very much for the reception tonight. That was lovely. The only problem was I was talking to former Mayor Vic Kloffenstein, who informed me that he spent 30 years between council and mayor, and I've only got 24. So in 2 years, maybe I'll have to be looking at things again.
A little competitive.
That's very competitive.
Never say never.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. Dave?
I too just want to thank everybody for the fabulous reception tonight. It was really nice, and it was great to see the community come out and support us. So thank you.
I'm good.
Good.
Yeah, I'll echo what those two said. Thank everyone for coming out for the reception, and they gave us the plaque, but they said we had to come to the meeting. I was ready to go home.
Not so fast.
I had the plaque. Shoot, let's go. But no, but I've enjoyed serving, so thank you very much.
I know Paul has something to say.
Yes, I do, Your Honor. I'd like to talk about, if I could, an early time in Lynn County, a time when the county commissioners sold Lot 5, Block 29 in Marion, Iowa for $50,000. For your information, Lot 5, Block 29 is 525 11th Street. 525 11th is a piece of property that the city has in its ownership across from the library. Interesting thing is that that lot sold originally for $50. 2 years later, it sold for $25. And the person that bought it for $25, 20 years later, lost it because they didn't pay the taxes, which wasn't real unusual in that period of time because people would buy property and they'd either move to Wisconsin or somewhere and forget they had it, and the county would end up with it. An interesting thing that occurred there, Mrs. Carrington bought that property in 1847, and she was a lady with 5 children, and the first murder case in Lynn County involved her husband, who was beaten to death by a fella, James Reed, arguing over something foolish, but he was found innocent in a court of law. So that was our first murder case, but he was found innocent. In 1867, the brick house original form was built on that site. It was really basically a rectangular house, and it was added to at a later date. That property is sold since 1867, in 1869, 1872, and 1873. 2 of those times the house was built onto. It was sold, and the mayor would see as he reads abstracts, partial lots were sold. That's lot 6, and there's lot 5 next to it, which the one owner gave to her daughter, and she built a small frame house on it. And it took 67 years to get those 2 lots back together in lot 6 and 7, or 5 and 6, I mean. It became, later a beauty shop. It was built onto. Now, the only reason I bring this up at all is that house is one of our few brick homes. We don't have many in Marion, Iowa. If you look at the map, we were lumber country, and they're all frame. I would like to see that some consideration from this council to save that building, the brick portion of it. I'd further like them to consider taking that building, the brick portion of it, and moving it up 6th Avenue between 7th and 8th Street on the south side, on the corner. You've had a person buy that land who was going to build an area in there connecting 3 houses. 2 of them were frame houses, and they were full of termites. They were torn down. The brick house at 6th and almost 7th is in wonderful shape. She's worked on it very hard and brought it back. If we could move this brick house down on the other corner, you'd have bookends for this combination of her thing, and we would save history of something that was built in 1867 and something we don't have many of. The city's cost, we, first of all, I would have the cost of buying it, which we've done, tearing it down, which would be expensive because brick houses create many loads to the landfill. I prefer to call it the dump, but I'll be kind to them tonight. The house, a couple interesting things. The house has, years ago, in lumber, you'd have pine woodwork. And they did a thing called grain painting. And a fellow would come in and paint grains on that, and he could make it look like walnut or whatever kind of wood you might choose. If you'd like to see a sample of that, go to the Granger house. The woodwork in there is grain painted. It probably is pine underneath. So anyway, Mayor, with all this in mind, I would personally like to see a time when our city manager, could come forth and we could put together a cost, so we know what it would cost to move it 2 blocks. Not the wood part of it, the brick part of it, and establish it on that corner. I believe that person would buy that. I believe that, we would take the cost of what it was going to tear down, help move it. I'd like to have us consider a TIF like we did the other brick house on 10th Street and see if we can put together a program to save part of our history.
Thank you.
And I wasn't around when that house was built.
No, but you were when the murder occurred.
Thank you. Thank you. Just a couple of items. Oh, yes, sir.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I apologize for the interruption.
No, go
I
ahead.
just want to make sure I got your attention before an adjournment. Upon review of the record, item H1 in the agenda, that was ordinance number 17-33, amending the chapter of the Marion Code. The motion was made and seconded to suspend the rules and move immediately to the second and third considerations, and it was put to a vote. Upon review of the record, I don't believe a roll call vote was made.
Oh, you're correct.
And I did review the code, and I believe that does actually require a roll call vote.
Okay.
So I'd ask that the council revisit that item and put it to a roll call vote.
Do we need to make the motion again, or?
I don't believe that is necessary. I just think that indicating in the record that we're revisiting that item, it was already put to a vote, and it was clear from those present that a supermajority supported it, but the code actually does specifically require a roll call vote, so I would just as a point of order ask that you direct that it be put to a roll call vote.
Thanks for bringing that to our attention. Okay, so.
Your Honor, I do have a question, though, but because that originally, ordinance number 1710 was the one providing the additional compensation for the council, and now the 1733, and with the amendment, or should it be back to the 1710?
I think if 1733 amends that, even an amendment.
It's a separate ordinance.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so should we can just do the roll call vote?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. Would you please do a roll call vote? Thank you.
Sure.
This is on ordinance number 17-33, item H1 on the agenda.
Mr. Draper?
Yes.
Ms. Etzel?
Yes.
Mr. Spinks?
Yes.
Mayor Abou-Osley?
Yes.
Mr. Brandt?
Yes.
Mr. Nicholson?
Yes.
Ms. Pazor?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm surprised, Councilwoman Pazor, you didn't catch that.
Well, I am too. Hey, I'm almost retired. I'm allowed.
Okay, I just have a couple items. This morning, a number of us from the city attended the Woodland Legacy Symposium that Trees Forever puts on every year, and Marion is one of the sponsors of that program. People came from the region, I believe, and it was really a great program. I had the opportunity to brag about Marion, which I always love to do, and to talk about all the things that we are doing here in terms of our natural environment and our focus on well-being and quality of life, and the natural environment being an integral part of that, and about all the great things that we are doing in Marion in that regard. But in general, it was a great program, and I just encourage city council members next year to attend, because it really helps to educate us and validate a lot of things that our staff is asking us to approve, and the direction that they want to head in terms of the city, and it validates the importance of it. I mean, they were able to quantify the cost of losing a tree, the cost to the city of that in terms of long term. I mean, things like that we don't normally think about. And so it was really informational, educational, and just a great opportunity to be with people from across the region who are working on these things. So I was happy to see a lot of our staff there too. So the other thing is, last week I went to Excelsior Middle School for my son's. It was a project that the sixth graders did, which was Cities of the Future. They got to design cities of the future. So I first looked at my son's project, and I didn't see one single roundabout. I looked at Lon's son's project, and every single intersection was a roundabout. Literally every single one of them. So with that, we'll conclude the meeting. Thank you very much.
Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
What's the date today?
Oh, today is Pearl Harbor Day. Thanks for the reminder. So
Important date to Slug and I.
yes, to everyone. So thank you for the reminder. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.